to be an alternative to the sale of the Orange County Fairgrounds. Specifically, this bill would allow the state to enter into a revenue sharing agreement with the Orange County Fair Board or their agents if the agreement would generate a minimum of $100 million in revenue, the amount projected by the current proposed sale. This bill, to clarify, does not cancel the pending sale or preclude a future sale. It simply gives the governor an alternative to generate equivalent revenues from the fairgrounds without the need to sell a unique, irreplaceable, and self-supporting public asset. The fairgrounds in Orange County is highly profitable. It has generated more than $168 million in revenue between 2005 and 2010, more than enough to replace any proceeds that may be lost if the pending offer of $100 million is declined or invalidated by the courts. Why sell an asset for a one-time revenue boost when the fair could provide an annual revenue stream to the state forever? During a time of economic crisis, all possibilities should be on the table. A revenue sharing plan would be a win-win. The state would continue to own the fairgrounds and generate revenue, and the Orange County residents would be assured that their fairgrounds would be a place of heritage, culture, and pride for decades to come. Governor Brown has publicly stated that he is against the one-time sale of state assets. This bill provides another option to generate revenue while retaining ownership of the fairgrounds. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Berryhill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise in support of AB 35. Earlier this year, we cut $32 million of general fund support for small and medium-sized fairs. These smaller fairs, which many of us represent in our districts, need to find a new stable funding source that will keep them open and serving the needs of their local communities. One way to do this is to have the state's larger and most profitable fairs, including the Orange County Fair, share some surplus revenues with their smaller cousins. In fact, the governor's May revise budget proposed that the sale of the fairground should be evaluated in the context of a larger statewide policy towards the fairs. He'd like the Department of Food and Agriculture to develop a statewide plan by 2012-2013 for future operations, maintenance, and oversight of the network of California fairs before fairground properties are sold. Assemblymember Solario's bill is consistent with the governor's proposal. It keeps a revenue-sharing option on the table that could benefit many other fairs throughout this state that are facing their own budget shortfall. And with that, I urge an aye vote.
Mr. Mansour.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I urge a no vote on this bill. There are too many unanswered questions in this bill that need to be resolved before it goes forward. It says that there would be authorization to enter into a revenue-sharing plan with the state at the Orange County Fairgrounds if that plan would generate an amount in excess of $100 million. It says nothing if that amount is not reached. It says nothing about what happens if that amount is exceeded. There's too many details that are left out. If the property is sold, it would bring us much-needed tax revenue. It would also bring us much-needed revenue from the sale. But again, there are too many unanswered questions in this bill. I ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Mr. Solorio, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Again, we know that we have issues with the financing of fairs throughout the state. The goal with this bill is to provide the governor another option for keeping the Orange County Fairgrounds in public hands. With respect to the issue of the terms of this bill, they've been worked out through Policy Committee and Appropriations. Also, the authorization is very similar to the authorization the governor has for a sale, in which case we let the governor negotiate the best terms for the state of California. With that, I ask for your aye vote.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the votes. Ayes 51, noes 3. Measure passes. File item 41, pass and retain. File item 42, ACR 57. Clerk will read.
Assembly concur Resolution 57 by Assemblymember Carter relative to Dropout Recovery Week.
Is this support members? Ms. Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. ACR 57 will declare the week of June 6th through June 12th, 2011 as Dropout Recovery Week. We have all heard about the dropout crisis. Fewer than 70% of ninth graders in California graduate, and in some districts, fewer than 50% of ninth graders graduate from high school. Without focus on dropout recovery, we cannot provide an equal educational opportunity for all Californians. Please join me in recognizing and supporting Dropout Recovery Week to celebrate the schools, teachers, and staff who support those students who return to school to earn a public high school diploma. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Garrick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I quickly rise here also in support of ACR 57. Vista Unified School District in my district takes the responsibility of dropout recovery very seriously. Much of the work of dropout recovery is performed by public schools, but in my case, in Vista's, they took an extra step and formed a public charter school. Vista authorized one such school over 10 years ago. That school has already awarded over 7,000 state standard-aligned public high school diplomas in that 10-year time. I commend Vista's board and superintendent for the willingness to authorize a charter school to do this important work. I support ACR 57 and encourage more of those in my district to focus on dropout recovery, not only because of the economic impact, but because it's the right thing to do for both families and our communities. Thank you.
Mr. Dickinson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and members. We all know what a serious issue dropouts are, and especially from our high schools. But I'm pleased to say that we have a dropout recovery high school right here in South Sacramento, Sciatec High School, which has graduated over 800 former dropouts. And just to characterize what this means in personal terms, I recently had the opportunity to visit the school and met Preacher Balos, a student typical of the kind of students that we find in these schools. He and his family came from the Marshall Islands, and he had actually just made the day before his first trip here to the state capitol in order to learn more about our state government and meet those involved in it. He's now a proud graduate of Sciatec High here in Sacramento, and at his graduation ceremony, which I had the pleasure of attending, he played a Polynesian version of the national anthem complete with ukulele, and it was just marvelous. So we know that we can succeed with dropouts, and here is one great avenue to doing just that.
Mr. Furutani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and members. I also stand in support of Mrs. Carter's ACR 57. I thank her very much for bringing this forward. I, too, have a Sciatec High School in my district. It's a part of the Jobs Corps Center that we still have. And in that same issue, the stories that Mr. Dickerson just shared, I'm sure we all can if we look at these different programs that we have in our community. Just talking about the problem, just lamenting the problem is not going to solve the problem. So addressing it very forthrightly is an approach we need to look at. Many different options, many different ways of keeping young people interested in school. We've talked about linked learning. We're going to have a CTE graduation requirement bill coming forward. We're going to have other multiple pathway plans. So we have to go after this very aggressively. And Mrs. Carter, thank you so much for bringing this ACR.
Mr. Alejo.
Madam Speaker and members, first of all, I want to thank my colleague, Ms. Carter, for bringing this resolution to our attention, and I strongly support this resolution. As we know, the dropout rate is a serious crisis impacting the entire state of California, but it's hard-hitting communities of color, especially African Americans and the Latino community. Large numbers of our kids are not completing high school, and these programs try to recapture these students, bring them back into the educational pipeline, and make sure they're able to get their high school diploma. And we all know, and as a former research assistant for the Harvard Civil Rights Project, our research that we conducted on this very issue showed that when a young person does not graduate from high school, it has lifelong consequences, especially there's that schools to prisons pipeline. A lot of our young people are dropping out of school, and the probability of going into the criminal justice system skyrockets. But it also has other consequences. those young people learn less throughout their lives. They have less access to health care, less opportunities for themselves and their future generations. So this is an issue of utmost importance that we should all be in strong support of. I ask for your aye vote on this issue today.
Ms. Huber.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the former chair of the Lowering California's High School Dropout Rate Select Committee from last term, I just wanted to commend Assemblymember Carter for bringing this resolution forward and ask that we have a unanimous vote in support. Thank you.
Mr. Swanson.
Madam Speaker, first of all, let me commend Ms. Carter again for her emphasis on education. And let me just say to all of my colleagues here, this is the frontline issue. Dropout recovery, focusing on strategies that can save our children and make education a real priority. It's going to take more resources. It's going to also take us understanding that there's no way to avoid the resources that are spent on our children. If we don't do it up front, if we don't do it through our education system, then we're going to do it again through other systems. They're going to pop up in the system. And so what we need to do is recognize this and concentrate strategies and understand that it is an investment. These children are our future, and I thank Ms. Carter for this resolution, and I ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Brownlee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I, too, want to stand in support of Ms. Carter's resolution. This is an important resolution that I think shines the light on the fact that dropouts can be recovered. And we had a robust discussion yesterday about charter schools. There are traditional schools and charter schools who are doing enormously well in terms of addressing our youth who are most at risk and are making them successful in school. And I think this resolution will pave the way for other schools and other models to be focused on this. This is an important resolution, and thank you, Ms. Carter, for bringing it, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Ms. Carter, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members, for your support on this bill. I'd like for the first roll to be open for co-authors.
Okay. Ms. Carter is asking for the first roll to be open for co-authors. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. This is co-authors. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. For the record, there are 72 co-authors. We can take a voice vote on this item. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The measure is adopted. File item 43, AB 6. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 6 by Assemblymember Fuentes, an act relating to public social services.
Mr. Fuentes.
Members, currently California is the last in the nation in terms of participation in the federal food stamp program. Nearly 50% of Californians who are eligible do not receive the federal nutrition aid that they are entitled to. Even more disturbing, over 2/3 of working families who are eligible for CalFresh benefits are not receiving them. That means that the neediest Californians, the families with children that would benefit from this, are not getting the benefits. Their children are going hungry. One factor that contributes to the problem is that the state has made it unnecessarily difficult for families to access the CalFresh benefits that they are eligible for. This bill would streamline our CalFresh administrative processes and ensure that families are able to put foods on their tables. By increasing participation and eligible benefits, AB 6 could serve as a massive economic stimulus package for California. We know that every dollar received is leveraged to the tune of $1.72, and that is good economic activity. This would create $850 million in increased federal benefits to low-income Californians. That would translate into over $1.4 billion in increased economic activity statewide and nearly $10 million in additional local tax revenue. This bill is a good measure that helps the state of California. It puts food on people's tables, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Donnelly.
Madam Speaker, members, I have to rise in opposition to this bill. This is unbelievable. We are lifting the burden off of entitlement programs when we have 1/3 of the welfare recipients in the United States, and yet we're piling on to the businesses. So if you're running a business, you're being productive, you're obeying the law, then we pile on and we put more restrictions on you, we put more taxes on you. But if you are on a public assistance, which I understand that people need, but good Lord, now we're inviting and incentivizing and saying, hey, there's going to be absolutely no requirements. You don't have to give your fingerprints. You don't have to prove you're here legally in the country. You don't have to prove anything. We had a bill previously that removed the requirement that you had an automobile valued at a certain level. We should be looking for ways to be moving people off of the welfare rolls, off of the food stamp rolls, and back into jobs. And this is the exact wrong direction for California. I urge a no vote.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise in opposition to a bill that's 75% good. I support the changes in the quarterly income system. I support the change in the income reporting, and I support the Home Energy Assistance Program, but I cannot support removing the statewide fingerprint imaging system. Members, this body not too long ago made significant cuts to this program because of budget constraints in our state. And now we're going to open the floodgates. This is one firewall that prevents abuse of this system. And we're going to remove one system that works. We can't even calculate how much money this is preventing in fraud and abuse of this program. And now we're going to open the floodgates to overrun this system with fraud and abuse, and people that are going to take advantage of this system, that are going to deny these benefits to the children and families that deserve it the most. I strongly urge a no vote. I've asked the author to accept an amendment to just remove that one part of the bill, and that was politely declined. And I would offer that amendment again, and I would support the bill if we would just remove the fingerprint portion of this bill. I strongly urge a no vote as it's currently written. Thank you.
Ms. Yamada.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise in strong support of AB 6 as a co-author. California remains one of the states in the nation with the lowest enrollment rate in the CalFresh or food stamp program, which I should remind everyone is administered by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You also should have received invitation from me to join me as I go on the Hunger Challenge next week. I appreciate very much Mr. Fuentes' leadership on this issue. As I said last week, I believe in another floor speech, there's nothing more basic than a meal. We need to provide sustenance for those who are trying to make a better life for themselves and their families, remove the barriers to participation. I urge an aye vote.
Ms. Grove.
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to AB 6 because it invites fraud into the system. The statewide fingerprint imaging system is a critical tool that helps immediately detect fraud. You put your fingerprint on the panel, you know if you're committing fraud, and they don't extend benefits to people who commit fraud. The proponents argue that the income eligibility verification system is a better system, but just because you prove someone's income eligibility doesn't mean that they're not a duplicate member in the system and already receiving benefits, but the fingerprint system will allow that to be detected. These benefits provided by the statewide fingerprint imaging system are real. Those who intend to defraud the system will not come into the offices and have their fingerprint tested if they know that they're not going to get benefits or be detected for fraud. Unfortunately, during these tough economic times, there are those who will go to desperate measures to try to defraud the government benefit program to get benefits. Every dollar of aid that goes to someone that's not eligible or that is committing fraud is dollars that are not going to the people that really need these benefits. It's our responsibility to have taxpayers be protected and only use taxpayers' money for people that are really eligible for these benefits. I urge a no vote.
Mr. Bell.
Speaker and members of the Assembly, I'd like to stand in support of this legislation. You know, we have tough times right now. We have to cut the budget. We have to make adjustments. We have to find those programs that are ineffective. And there's hardly a program that is more ineffective, more wasteful, more unnecessary than checking people 4 times a year and fingerprinting them for the food stamp program. This program that we're trying to reform with this bill actually is one of the biggest waste of the taxpayers' money that you can imagine in this year's budget. So if we have to cut some of these programs, why not look at what's working and what's not working? In this case, we hardly have found anybody in the state of California that has been convicted of food stamp fraud. And we have spent hundreds of millions of dollars in looking for these people. We've been looking under the carpet, under everything, trying to find all these people that we can convict of food stamp fraud, and guess what? We hardly found anybody. So why are we wasting all this money? Now, on the other hand, this bill would actually make it streamlined and have integrity protections in the bill conforming to the federal law that would make sure that we have integrity, and it would actually do something good. It would actually get food to people that are eligible, qualified, and streamline the process so they can get the food they need. What more better thing can we do for the citizens of California and the economy? And guess where all the food is grown, folks? It's grown in California. So it benefits the area. The Farm Bureau has endorsed this measure. The retailers. I urge and I vote, let's cut some of these inefficient programs and stop wasting a lot of money. This program is 100%, the benefit is 100% federally funded. The state has to pick up the tab for part of the administration, and part of that is to fingerprint and do all these things. Why waste the money? Let's try to use our money wisely. I urge and I vote.
Mr. Dickinson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise in support of this bill. Given the experience that I've had over the years at the local level, I think there's one thing we can agree on. We currently have barriers that stand between people who need food, people who are entitled to food, and people who don't get that food. Do we deter fraud? No. There's no evidence whatsoever that has been presented that suggests that fingerprinting actually deters those who aren't entitled to the benefits of the CalFresh program from receiving them. And in fact, as my colleague Mr. Bell noted, it's an enormous expense. Why would we continue to waste our money and keep people from getting food that they need? I urge an aye vote.
Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise in strong support of AB 6, which streamlines the administration of CalFresh and CalWorks programs and implements the Heat and Eat program. Bearing in mind that we, as a legislature, recently approved billions of dollars of cuts to various welfare programs and that 12% of California's workforce are currently unemployed. We know that people are facing incredible challenges to meet their basic and daily needs of food and shelter. Hundreds of thousands of Californians seek these temporary assistance grants and benefit from the CalFresh and CalWorks programs. AB 6 looks to increase those in need of these programs by basically removing barriers, streamlining the process. Californians are asking us to streamline the work that we do it more efficiently, and also do it more effectively in serving California's needs. AB 6 does just that. It helps us draw down $8.7 billion from federal stimulus money, and it would also give the state net savings of $17 million. So, members, I ask you, help us better serve California, help us better save for California, and help us move California forward. We move millions upon millions, if not billions, for multimillionaire developers. We need the masses that walk into the big boxes, walk into our commercial retail, that support our sales tax base, to also get a helping hand as well. Let's move California forward together. I ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Swanson.
Madam Speaker, thank you. First of all, let me thank the distinguished chair of our Appropriation Committee for bringing this bill forward, and say to my colleagues, at what point will we start thinking about the children in need and not continue this pursuit of the avoidable boogeyman of food stamp fraud? we have to figure out what, in fact, our values tell us to do, and that is feed children, feed families. California is a donor state. We give the federal government more money than anyone else, and we have not gotten our fair return. The taxpayers of this state have not gotten their fair return of federal dollars. Opposition to this bill doesn't even make sense economically. I mean, every CalFresh recipient that purchases food using the ATM card, which reduces fraud, that's $1.75 to our economy for every dollar. That helps small businesses. That helps the agricultural industry in our state. So it doesn't even make economic sense to oppose this bill, except if you're really focusing in on chasing the food stamp boogeyman of fraud. And so I think that at this point in this economy, we need to say it is the children and the family in need that we will give our priority consideration to and support this fine bill and making sure that California taxpayers get the benefit of their federal tax dollars. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Cedillo.
Not to be redundant, but just to add my voice to the choir of those who want to put the children of California first. Let me note that it's time for us to end this waste, fraud, and abuse that is all wrapped up in both these programs. We waste more money. It is more a fraudulent act, and it is an abuse of the entire process to continue to have this fetish, this obsession that somehow we are going to protect our society against someone who is going to get food. It's about time for us, and I applaud the Chair of Appropriations for his leadership. He is bringing an end to waste, fraud, and abuse in this program. He is making the services and resources of the state appropriately available to the people of California, and I also ask for an aye vote.
Ms. Huber.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this bill, and I just want to set the record straight because I am completely for fighting against fraud, waste, and abuse in our system. And originally, the department said fingerprinting was going to save us $2 for every dollar we spent on the program. And so we tested that claim, and Assemblymember Bell requested that an audit be done to actually verify whether or not the fingerprinting system was saving us money. The results are in. The independent state auditor said we are spending more money on our fingerprinting system than we are actually saving. Now, I am for getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse, but this fingerprinting system is not working. It's costing us more money than it's saving us. We should get rid of it. We need to make sure that we're doing enough to check the system, but we got to support this bill now because we shouldn't be wasting money on fingerprinting if it doesn't work. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Mr. Fuentes, you may close.
Thank you, members. I do want to draw your attention to this program. It is a federal program, which means that your immigration status is verified by participating in this federal program. The bill moves CalFresh and CalWorks reporting periods from quarterly to semi-annual, improving access to critical nutrition assistance and maintaining reporting alignment between both programs. Second, the bill creates a Heat and Eat program, which allows CalFresh recipients to benefit from the maximum allowable utility allowance under federal law. Lastly, members, the reason we have the fingerprinting here, aside from the comments that were made from my colleague from Sacramento here area, the federal government has asked us, California, to remove this restriction or risk losing hundreds of millions of dollars in federal aid. California is one of 3 states in the union that requires its aid applicants to be fingerprinted. One of 3 states. In addition, the state auditor has called for this change, and as it was pointed out earlier, it would not increase fraud at all. I respectfully ask for your support and want to thank the chair of the Human Services Committee for his leadership in educating not just myself but all of us on the efficacy and the importance of making sure that we get this program to perform as well as it needs to so that California can benefit from the increased economic activity as well as put food in hungry people's stomachs. Urge an aye vote.
Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 21. Measure passes. File item 44, AB 13. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 13 by Assemblymember Knight, an act relating to public school volunteers.
Mr. Knight.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Assembly Bill 13 codifies restrictions regarding the ability of a parent to volunteer for district activities in a public school, conforming restrictions of volunteers to those that already exist for employees. AB 13 prohibits persons who have been convicted of a designated sex offense or controlled substance felony, specifically relating to minors, from volunteering in a public school district activities for up to 5 years after their conviction. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 57, noes 4. Measure passes. File item 45 and 46 have been dispensed with. File item 47, AB 178. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 178 by Assemblymember Gurel and others, an act relating to county jails.
Mr. Williams.
Well, since our colleague, Mr. Gurel, is serving the country in Afghanistan, I'm proud to present this bill. His bill, which I am a joint author to, requires inmates who are released early to sign a release form promising that they will appear in court and not commit new crimes, just like a defendant who's released by posting bail or released on recognizance. This is important because we do not want the legal onus to be on the institution of incarceration to get this prisoner to their hearing. The onus needs to be on the individual if they are being released. This is very important because obviously we are now looking at federal court-ordered releases, which we do not have a system that's necessarily ready for. Early release should not be a get-out-of-jail-free card, but rather as a last resort to an encroaching problem in our criminal justice system. If the state must release inmates early, then we need to hold detainees accountable and make sure they follow through with their terms of their release. This is a common sense safety measure enhancing the safety of our local communities. And on behalf of Mr. Gurel and myself, I ask for your aye vote for this bipartisan measure.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 63, no 0. Measure passes. Okay, members, we are going to take a 1-hour break. Democratic caucus in the members' lounge, Republican caucus in the Rules Committee. There will be no passes off the floor. We will reconvene in 1 hour at 12:47 sharp. Thank you, members.